I just want to say to any founders out there who are struggling, work on it. It can get so much better if everyone is really committed to making it better. If they're not, then I would say move right on. But if you're three truly committed to being in a relationship together, a long-term one, then get a coach and work it out.
Yeah, I love what you said there because it doesn't have to be shit, right? When someone says that you need to work at it, it can be beautiful as well. Yeah, there will be moments, as you say, when you feel vulnerable, when you feel angry, sad, paranoid, whatever. But when you've got someone to work with and discuss that as a group and flesh that stuff out and get into dissent, because let's be honest, it's okay to disagree. And yeah, you do feel resentment sometimes, anger towards your co-founder, whatever. It's totally natural. And if you let that fester, I mean, we talked about this before, right? If you let it fester, then that ends up being something that it should never have got to. It can be something innocuous where you felt like you were ignored, or, something wasn't done, a piece of work wasn't done as good as to your high standards or whatever it is. But just being able to work it out as a group, it's worth all of that time and investment, because when we say work at it, it's a natural thing. Mira and I have to work at our relationship outside of us running a company. And as founders ourselves, we have to work on that. And we also have coaches ourselves, because sometimes we can't see the wood for the trees, and it's good to get an outside perspective and also just get over yourself, get over your own ego, right?
I love that you said get over yourself, because for me, what was so freeing was realizing how much control I had to change the situation. And what I mean by that is when I could look inward and I gave myself that space, because I was able to reflect with you and I was able to reflect with Yenny, I was able to see that a lot of these things were actually repetitive things that happen in other relationships for me, whether it's my need for perfectionism, which is something I'm really trying to get away from, because nobody is served by perfectionism. It's like that high standard for myself is of course being pushed onto every single person around me, and no one can live up to that, including myself. So I think that that space that I gave myself and that I'm trying to give myself, and that self-compassion and kindness then trickles down to everyone around me, and it creates a spaciousness that is warm, kind, and those little things are much more easy to seep into that space and not go into me. So it's kind of like I've created a bubble around myself, and it's in my control to keep that bubble. And how I keep that bubble around me and that safe space, that spaciousness, is through journaling, working out, spending time with my children without my phone near me, doing the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm mentally fit. Yeah, and just knowing that I at any time can bring that control back is such a gift. And of course, I'm coming from I'm on a high now. Peter, you've seen me in the low, and maybe it would be good to talk a bit about that, of how I got here. So back before the new year, I was having some feelings about one of my co-founders, and those feelings were around me not feeling like I was being seen, not like I wasn't getting enough gratitude or praise. Praise is the word. And actually, when I look into it, it's this need for praise that I've always wanted to get from the external, but I can give myself that praise. That praise doesn't need to come from anyone else. Actually, when I can give myself that praise, I don't need it. I don't need those awards. I don't need my co-founders to give me praise. I don't need my team to give me praise. It's nice. I'll take it. Please. I'm not going to say no to it, but I can give it to myself. And I think that that was a game changer for me. And you helped me see that. So
You're very
thank you.
welcome. Do you think boundaries plays a massive part in that? Because I know we explored this. So I'm guessing that over time, in your team, especially in Founderland, you've had to set some professional and personal boundaries that's probably served you well, because obviously to be able to do all of that safe bubble activity, you need to kind of carve out that time for you, right?
That's so true. So boundaries are a tricky one, because they're changing often, and I like to leave room for them to change, because relationships develop, and sometimes you need to set boundaries with someone and then pull them back. So I'm trying to see them as more fluid. But yes, in particular, in this one case, it was me checking into myself and feeling uncomfortable about something, and it stayed with me. So it didn't go into that bubble space. It just stayed with me and it hurt me. And I was like, I'm actually hurt right now. And so this hurt isn't going to go away. It doesn't seem to be leaving when I do all the things that I can do all my in my toolbox. So I'm going to actually talk to this person, and that was my boundary. It was, now I'm gonna say something, and I'm gonna say how this made me feel, even though I was so scared. And what ended up happening with this person was an hour and a half conversation, crying, which was me being vulnerable. And then we reached a new level of our relationship that we talked about after. We were like, wow, for Founderland to work, our relationship needs to be held at the highest regard. And we cannot let anything get in the way of that. And yeah, I'm just excited for how much further the relationship will go now that we've set boundaries with each other and then become vulnerable with each other. So we know where those boundaries are and how we can also penetrate them in a way that feels safe